took me years to realize this. 12 most powerful lessons from Stoicism on detachment. Most people think detachment means becoming cold. That is the first lie. It took me years to understand that detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the end of inner slavery. It is the moment you stop handing your peace to people, outcomes, memories, and expectations that were never truly yours to control. For a long time, I thought pain came from loss itself, losing people, losing opportunities, losing the future I had imagined so vividly that it felt real. But loss was only part of it. The deeper wound was attachment, the habit of tying my emotional stability to things outside my command. And every time those things changed, I changed with them. I became restless when others pulled away, bitter when life refused to follow my timetable, anxious when reality did not match the story I had written in my mind. That is how attachment works. It does not introduce itself as weakness. It disguises itself as love, loyalty, ambition, hope, and sincerity. It makes you believe that clinging is depth, that fear is proof of meaning, that desperation is evidence that something matters. But Stoicism tears through that illusion. It asks a question most people spend years avoiding. What have you given so much authority that it now has the power to disturb your mind? This is where detachment begins, not in indifference, not in emotional withdrawal, but in clarity. The clarity to see that peace was never meant to depend on what changes, that freedom is not found in possessing the right people or preserving the right conditions. It is found in becoming the kind of person who can remain whole even when conditions shift. And once you see that, you begin to understand the first lesson. You are attached less to people than to the version of life you built around them. That is why letting go can feel so violent. You are not only grieving a person, a role, or a dream. You are grieving the future you silently connected to it. The conversations that never happened, the peace you thought would come later, the recognition you believed would finally make you feel complete. What hurts is not always the thing itself. Often, it is the collapse of what you thought the thing would do for you. You thought the relationship would save you from loneliness. You thought success would silence your insecurity. You thought approval would confirm your worth. And when the thing breaks, it does not only take itself away, it exposes the dependency beneath it. This is why Stoicism feels brutal at first. It separates what happened from what you imagined. It reveals that much of your suffering was not created by reality, but by the private illusion you built around it. A person leaving is painful, yes, but the deeper pain often comes from the collapse of the self you were becoming beside them. You miss who you thought you would be. You miss the certainty you borrowed from their presence. You miss the emotional structure you built around their role in your life. That is why detachment is not just about releasing people. It is about releasing the imagined future that made them feel necessary. And once you understand that, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Most people do not suffer because reality is cruel. They suffer because reality speaks once, and the mind keeps arguing long after the answer has already been given. This is one of the hardest lessons to accept. A relationship changes, but the mind keeps returning to old moments, searching for a version of the past that no longer exists. An opportunity disappears, yet the mind keeps replaying what could have been said, what should have happened, what might still be rescued if enough energy is poured into the fantasy. Life moves forward, but the soul remains kneeling before a closed door, asking reality to reopen itself out of pity. This is not resilience. It is resistance disguised as hope. There is pain that comes with loss, and that pain is human. But there is another kind of pain that comes after loss, and that pain is manufactured by attachment. It is created by the refusal to accept that something has already ended, already changed, already revealed its nature. Many people remain trapped there for years, not in the event itself, but in the endless negotiation that follows. They do not accept what happened because acceptance feels like defeat. They do not release what is gone because release feels like betrayal. They do not stop hoping because they have confused hope with dignity. But Stoicism draws a clean line. Acceptance is not surrender to despair. Acceptance is surrender to truth. And truth, however painful, is always lighter than illusion. The undisciplined mind hates finality. It lingers in emotional half-light, not fully attached, not fully free. It keeps trying to recover clarity from those who have already chosen distance. It keeps trying to restore respect from those who have already revealed their character. It keeps waiting for closure from situations that have already given enough evidence. Stoicism asks for something more mature. It asks you to recognize when reality has spoken. It asks you to stop demanding a different answer just because the truth is uncomfortable. Once you stop negotiating with reality, another danger reveals itself. The more of your identity you place inside one person, one role, one dream, or one outcome, the more fear that thing begins to generate inside you. At first, that identity feels like purpose. It feels like direction. It feels meaningful. You begin to think, this is who I am because of this relationship, this work, this ambition. And slowly, your sense of self begins to rise and fall with something unstable. That is where attachment deepens into dependency. Not because the thing itself is evil, but because you allowed it to carry more weight than it was ever meant to hold. Then fear enters. Quiet fear, the fear of losing what now defines you. The fear that if this one thing collapses, you will not know who you are anymore. And because of that fear, you begin protecting it at all costs. You tolerate what you should not tolerate. You remain in situations that drain you. You overextend yourself to maintain something that is already weakening. Your peace becomes dependent on whether that external thing continues to affirm your identity. Stoicism opposes this completely. It teaches that identity must never be built on what can be taken away. A person can leave, a career can shift, recognition can disappear. Even your self-image can be shattered by time and experience. If your foundation is built on those things, then your stability is always one event away from collapse. But if your identity is rooted in character, discipline, judgment, and reason, then life can rearrange itself without erasing you. This is why Marcus Aurelius kept returning to the same discipline. Everything external changes. Your task is not to stop that change. Your task is to remain anchored in how you choose to meet it. The moment your identity is placed correctly, you can love without feeling erased by loss. You can pursue goals without believing failure defines you. You can succeed without becoming addicted to recognition. You can lose without becoming lost. And once you see how misplaced identity creates fear, another realization begins to sharpen. Not everything you are chasing is meant to be carried. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths in the whole Stoic path, because attachment often disguises itself as ambition. It tells you that persistence is always noble, that holding on is always strength, that letting go is weakness. But not every pursuit is aligned with your growth. Some things you carry are not your purpose, they are your burden. Many people remain loyal to paths that have already stopped serving them simply because they have invested too much to walk away. Time, energy, emotion, identity. They begin to feel that letting go would invalidate everything they have done. So they continue, they push harder, they justify the discomfort, they silence the part of themselves that already knows something is wrong. And over time, the weight grows heavier. Not because the path became more difficult, but because it was never meant to be carried this far. Stoicism demands honesty here. Not every desire is worth fulfilling. Not every connection is worth maintaining. Not every goal is worth sacrificing your inner balance for. Some pursuits are born from comparison, others from fear of being left behind, others from the need to prove something to people who are no longer even present in your life. If you never question those motives, they will quietly control your direction without ever bringing peace. Seneca warned about this. People can be endlessly busy and still deeply misaligned. They can chase constantly and yet have no real clarity about why they are running. Letting go of what is not meant to be carried is not defeat. It is precision. It is the refusal to waste strength on what does not deepen your character or protect your peace. And once you begin releasing what no longer aligns, another layer of truth appears. You are often not missing the person or the outcome as much as you think. You are missing the version of yourself that existed when it mattered. This is why memory can hold so much power. It does not only preserve events, it preserves identity, a certain season of life, a certain emotional atmosphere, a certain version of you that existed in the presence of someone or under the promise of something. When that chapter ends, what haunts you is often not only their absence, it is the collapse of who you were while that chapter was alive. You think you miss them, but often what you really miss is who you were when life still felt open, when a particular hope still seemed possible, when your future still felt tied to a certain image. And because that emotional state was linked to something external, its disappearance feels like the loss of a part of yourself. This is where many people become trapped by nostalgia. They romanticize the past because memory edits. It softens what hurt and highlights what flatters longing. You remember the warmth, but not the instability, the hope, but not the dependence, the beauty, but not the uncertainty. And because of that, you begin worshipping an emotional atmosphere that no longer exists in real form. Stoicism does not ask you to erase memory. It asks you to stop kneeling before it. The past can teach you, but it cannot be allowed to govern you. A mature mind does not keep trying to resurrect a former self. It asks what this present life now requires. It stops saying, "I miss what was," and starts asking why I needed that version of life to feel complete. And that question leads to another hard truth. Attachment often begins where self-respect quietly ends. It rarely begins in one dramatic moment. It begins in small internal betrayals. You ignore what unsettles you. You excuse what should concern you. You accept less than your conscience can comfortably bear because you are afraid that drawing a boundary will cost you something you have become emotionally dependent on. At first, it looks like patience. Then it becomes tolerance. Then it becomes self-abandonment. You wait longer than your peace can afford. You explain yourself more than your clarity requires. You remain available where your value is only occasionally acknowledged. You start adjusting your dignity to keep something alive. And because it happens gradually, you may not recognize the loss immediately, but something in you knows. Your mind becomes noisier. Your self-trust weakens. Your emotional state becomes more dependent on response, reassurance, and signs. This is why Stoicism treats self-command as moral strength. Once your need for something exceeds your commitment to your own principles, that thing begins to rule you. It can be a relationship, it can be validation, it can be status. It can be the hope of being understood. The object changes, but the pattern remains. The stronger the attachment, the easier it becomes to justify what diminishes you. A person with self-respect can feel pain without kneeling before it. They can value someone without begging for what should be offered freely. They can care deeply and still refuse to participate in their own erosion. This is not arrogance. It is order. It is the refusal to let desire outrank dignity. And once you see how often attachment feeds on weakened self-respect, the next lesson becomes clear. Control is most seductive when life feels uncertain. Uncertainty exposes how little you truly command. You cannot decide how others feel. You cannot guarantee how events will unfold. You cannot force clarity from silence. You cannot accelerate what unfolds in its own time. But instead of accepting this, most people compensate. They think more, push more, explain more, check more, cling more, not because it works, but because it temporarily reduces the anxiety of not knowing. This is the deception of control. It feels like strength, but it is often just fear trying to escape uncertainty. Stoicism draws a sharp line here. The desire for control is not the same as the capacity for control. You may want reassurance, but wanting does not create authority. You may want a different outcome, but wanting does not make reality obey. The more you try to dominate what is outside your domain, the more unstable your inner state becomes, because your peace is now tied to something that was never yours to command. Epictetus built his philosophy on this distinction. Some things are within your control, and some are not. But the real challenge is not saying this. It is living it when emotion demands the opposite. It is staying still when your instinct tells you to force movement. It is allowing uncertainty to exist without rushing to kill it. It is withholding reaction long enough for reality to show itself. When you stop trying to control what is uncertain, another truth emerges. What disturbs you is not loss itself, but the collapse of expectation. Expectation is subtle. You do not always say, "This must happen." You simply begin to assume continuity. This will last. This will work. This person will stay. This path will lead somewhere meaningful. And as those expectations grow, they create emotional structure. You feel safer because you believe you know where life is going. But that safety is fragile because it is built on assumption, not on truth. When expectation collapses, it feels like more than disappointment. It feels like disorientation. Not only because something ended, but because the internal narrative you were relying on has been destroyed. The pain is intensified by the fact that your mind was not simply attached to the event, it was attached to the story. Stoicism teaches that expectation must be held lightly, or it will turn against you. This does not mean you stop planning. It means you stop emotionally depending on your plans being honored by reality. Preference is natural. Entitlement is dangerous. The moment your peace depends on a specific outcome, you have made yourself vulnerable. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to expect change itself, not to become pessimistic, but to become flexible. He understood that if the mind is prepared for movement, it does not collapse when movement comes. This is one of the highest forms of resilience, not forcing permanence, preparing for transformation. And once expectation loses its grip, silence begins to show you something even deeper. Many attachments survive not because they are strong, but because silence has never exposed what they truly are. Noise keeps many illusions alive. Constant contact, constant interpretation, constant stimulation, constant emotional movement. These things can create the appearance of meaning, but silence strips all of that away. When there are no messages, no reactions, no new signs to analyze, no emotional activity to sustain the fantasy, the mind is forced to face what remains. And what remains is often very different from what attachment told you was there. You begin to notice that what felt like connection may have depended entirely on your effort. What felt like love may have depended on uncertainty and intermittent reward. What felt like purpose may have depended on validation. Silence does not destroy these things. It reveals them. This is why so many people rush back into noise. Not because noise heals them, but because silence clarifies too much. It shows them that what they called confusion was often clarity they had been too active to see. Stoicism values this exposure. False strength is always more dangerous than honest weakness. If something can only survive constant stimulation, then it was never stable. If a desire collapses when no one is praising it, then perhaps the desire was more about ego than purpose. If a relationship falls apart the moment effort becomes unequal, then silence has not ruined it. Silence has revealed its structure. And once silence reveals what is real, time becomes the next battlefield. Detachment is the moment you stop asking life to match your emotional timetable. Most suffering is not created because something did not happen. It is created because it did not happen when you believed it should. The mind builds a private schedule for how life is supposed to unfold. By now, this should be clear. By now, this should have happened. By now, they should have chosen me. And when life refuses that timeline, you begin to feel delay as injury. Time becomes pressure. You feel behind. You feel urgency where there may be no real danger. You begin forcing decisions that require patience. This is where attachment and timing merge into anxiety. Stoicism breaks this pattern by reminding you that time is not your possession. You do not control when someone understands. You do not decide when reality reveals its full meaning. You do not command the pace of life. What you control is how you move within time, not how time moves around you. Impatience is often disguised as determination, but impatience distorts action. It makes you speak when silence would reveal more. It makes you chase when stillness would clarify more. It makes you force what should be allowed to unfold. The disciplined mind learns to detach from timing without detaching from effort. It acts where action matters, but it stops demanding immediate confirmation that the effort is working. This creates a different kind of strength, calm persistence. You no longer rush life just to relieve your own discomfort. You allow things to show themselves at their natural pace. And by doing that, you stop turning delay into a verdict against yourself, because that is the next trap. Much of what disturbs you is not what happens to you, but how quickly you turn every experience into a judgment about yourself. Something fails, and the mind immediately says, "I am not enough." Someone distances themselves, and the mind interprets it as proof of unworthiness. A plan collapses, and suddenly it becomes evidence that you are behind, incapable, or inadequate. The event itself may be limited, but the interpretation expands it into a sentence on your identity. This is where suffering becomes deeply internal. You are no longer only attached to people or outcomes. You are attached to what they seem to say about you. Stoicism cuts this pattern apart. What happens to you is not the same as what you are. Rejection is not identity. Delay is not identity. Failure is not identity. Misunderstanding is not identity. These are experiences, not verdicts, but the undisciplined mind personalizes everything. It treats every external fluctuation as if it were defining the self. Epictetus warned that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The practical meaning of that is severe. It means much of your suffering is created in the interpretation, not in the event itself. And once you understand that, you gain back enormous power. You stop turning every moment into self-condemnation. You begin to see outcomes as information rather than proof of worth. This makes the mind quieter, more accurate, more stable, and it prepares you for the final and deepest lesson. True detachment is not about losing feeling. It is about gaining self-command. This is where many people misunderstand Stoicism completely. They think detachment means emotional numbness, but Stoicism never taught that. It taught mastery. You can feel deeply without becoming ruled by what you feel. You can experience grief without becoming broken by grief. You can love without becoming dependent. You can want without collapsing when what you want does not arrive. Most people live as servants to internal weather. If they feel anger, they become anger. If they feel rejection, they become rejection. If they feel desire, they obey desire. Their emotional state dictates their language, decisions, priorities, and perception of reality. This is why so many lives become unstable, even when external conditions are manageable. The person never learned to stand apart from impulse long enough to govern it. Stoicism demands that space. Feeling is a signal. not a ruler. Anger may reveal that a boundary has been crossed, but anger must not become the hand that acts. Sadness may reveal that something mattered, but sadness must not define your future. Fear may reveal uncertainty, but fear must not become your decision-maker. This is the essence of self-command. A person who cannot govern themselves will always be governed by something else. Praise, criticism, urgency, loneliness, appetite, memory, fantasy. It does not matter which force it is. If it can move your inner state without your discipline, then it has authority over you. Marcus Aurelius returned to this again and again. Govern the mind. Return to reason. Do not hand your authority to what is outside you. That is the center of Stoic detachment, not becoming cold, becoming sovereign. And once you understand that, the entire meaning of detachment changes. It is no longer about what you lose, it becomes about what you recover. You recover your clarity from confusion, your dignity from emotional bargaining, your peace from expectation, your discipline from impulse, your identity from everything you once allowed to define it. The reward of detachment is not emptiness, it is structure. It is the internal order that allows you to remain steady in a world that never stops changing. The day you stop clinging is the day life stops controlling you. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop meeting it as a dependent mind. You stop trying to preserve everything. You stop needing certainty in order to breathe. You stop mistaking attachment for meaning. And in that space, something stronger begins to form. You begin to see clearly, to act precisely, to release what no longer aligns without dramatic collapse. You stop explaining yourself where there is no understanding. You stop returning to what has already revealed its limits. You stop building identity on what can leave. You stop asking life to match your emotional schedule. You stop turning every event into a judgment about your worth. And then something remarkable happens. Peace stops feeling like something you must chase. It becomes something you carry, not because you have secured the world, but because you have stopped trying to build yourself on what the world keeps changing. That is the final lesson. Detachment is not a rejection of life. It is the refusal to lose yourself inside it. It is the discipline of caring without becoming captive, of loving without surrendering command, of participating fully without placing your peace in what was never yours to control. And once you reach that point, you do not become empty, you become free.